Hey, everybody, I am Tommy, and you are on The Love Boat. Kristen, Melinda, Jane, Aldrich, Barbara, Wait. Hey, Arwa, how you doing? How are you? So, today's been one of those days, folks. Barbara, Wait, Monk. There you are. Good to see you. KM. Todd, my heart goes out to you. Todd says, hello, I am LDS. And was in church when I got the notification on my phone of the attack in Michigan. I'm in Utah. I am so sorry for the loss and for the fact that, hey, Murph, the fact that people were in there just exercising their ability to worship any way they want. And I think that that's absolutely horrific. Josh, how are you? And we're going to talk about that. Susie, good to see you. Sam, what's happening? Mr. Magoo. Wendy R., I'm glad you're here. Johnny Scoville's here. That would be the Johnny Scoville. So this is a tough subject, and people get really weird sometimes about it. Carolina, Canada, good to see you. But we're going to deal in facts here. It's not going to be any of the BS. We're just going to cut to some serious sort of facts on this issue. And I've heard a lot of people today on a lot of different press programs talking about how stay with me. Here's the deal. This isn't new. And I'm hearing people in the news talk about how, there was a school shooting a couple of weeks back. And then they start listing stuff from like 8 years ago, shootings at places. You have no idea how bad the attack on faith is right now worldwide. Jeremy Fowler, good to see you. And I'm not talking to you as a Christian. I'm talking to you as a human being, right, who happens to be a Christian. But the most persecuted religion on planet Earth right now. Goodness, hold on. How about that? Let me shake that off. That's old age right there, folks. This is the most persecuted religion on planet Earth, and there are statistics out the wazoo to back this up. Let's go over some fun stuff just to get the ball rolling so that people know whether or not they want to watch. There have been crucifixions that are taking place all over the planet, not 2,500 years ago, right? I'm talking about in the last decade and currently going on around the world. Boko Haram probably leading the pack on this. This is a group of people in Nigeria who like to enlist boys into their military. These guys, I don't know. What they are is terrorists. They hang out in the jungle. They capture groups of school children. They do absolutely horrific things, and they like big time to crucify Christians, nail them to crosses. 2025, right? And Renee B., good to see you. What ends up happening is, if any of you have actually taken my freaking advice and gone and watched any of the Charlie Kirk debates, first of all, you can thank me later. But if you've watched any of those and you've ever heard Charlie talk to people about things like this, the fact is that currently in our country, it is a very popular belief that whatever goes for you is cool. You know what I mean? Anything that goes for you is cool. If you want to be a dolphin queen king, if you want to be someone who is a MAP, right? A minor attracted person, if you want to do any of these things, that's okay, because morality is something that each person gets to decide. And a lot of deep thinkers over the years, Aristotle was fond of this concept, but the idea is to ascend to something better than you are. It's not too rugged a concept, right? You want to ascend to something better than you are. And it's a pretty stark difference when you look at places like, the Iraq and Syria crew with ISIS, also big on the whole crucifixion thing. By the way, I fact-checked the dog crap out of this. So if you want to tell me that this didn't happen, you go do your homework. And then the two of us will get back together, because this is a stone cold fact. I can tell you where it happens. Nigeria, Boko Haram is probably the nastiest of these groups. North Korea, believe it or not. If you profess your Christianity in North Korea, they will lug you off to an internment camp where you're going to do hard labor until you die. Now, or you get, depending on how you look at it, lucky or unlucky, and they'll nail you to a cross. This happens. We look back at the Holocaust and we go, there's no way that could ever happen again. That kind of evil can't live on this planet. And the reason that kind of evil can live on this planet is because we don't have a yardstick by which we judge what is moral and what is not. We leave it in the hands of every single person. And what you come up with then is whatever works for you is completely cool. There is nothing you have to worry about, because if it feels good to you, you're good. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. I'm glad you're here. Hello, Tanisha. Wes, how are you, my friend? So you can dislike religious folks, right? But we're seeing what happens when other religions use their yardstick for what faith is, right? And what morality is. The group that gets beat on in the press, in movies, in every more than any other, is the person with a Christian faith. And one of the reasons is we turn the other cheek, right? Do that to the Muslim folk and see what happens. Go out there and start talking bad about the prophet and watch what happens to you, because they'll come to your house and kill you, right? That's their yardstick. You know, there's a lot of other ones. Their Sharia law allows the killing of your sister if by some chance she goes out with somebody of a different faith or color. That's a hell of a yardstick, right? But everybody's entitled to their own yardstick. I am of the firm belief that you need to ascend to something higher. And if faith isn't going to be a yardstick, the idea that we are divinely created isn't going to be a yardstick, then we got to come up with something that is. And I'm open to anybody's suggestion of how we pull that off without certain guidelines that you kind of have to follow through with everything on, right? That we're not animals, that we're divinely created and things of that nature. And because of that, we have certain inalienable rights. We came up with these concepts a couple of 100 years ago, and it worked beautifully. The people that cry about how the people on the right are racist, you should do some research. Because if you go back to right around World War II time, African-American income was growing faster than white income. They had never been better off. They had less fatherless homes than the white folk did by a damn stretch. And all of a sudden, everything kind of got really bad. And if you think about it, this was at the worst time for them. This was segregated bathrooms, right? This was Jim Crow. This was a terrible time in terms of what society was doing. But they had very intact family homes. People are going to hate me for this, and I don't much care. What I would encourage you to do is come up with a reason that this doesn't make sense. And I'm open to it. I really am. I'm open to it. But we got off track. And Charlie Kirk said this. So have a couple of really great authors that have written on this subject. But what happened is we allowed the federal government to become the father in literally hundreds of millions of people's lives, where there's no guy. And the government supplements and takes care of what the father ought to be doing, which is not running off on somebody that he knocks up, right? Regardless of race. But we have spent $30 trillion. What's our debt? 39 trillion. We've spent 30 of that trillion dollars on social construct programs that have had the best minds in the world working on it. And they came up with critical race theory, right? They endorsed Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist group. They didn't deny this. If you ever went to their website and actually looked at it, which nobody in America did, because they just watched stuff on YouTube and went, yeah, no doubt. Give me a t-shirt. Where do I buy that? Out of control, absolutely out of control. If you ever take the time, right, to read the Communist Manifesto, the first thing they're going to tell you is they want to abolish the family, because that's the first tyrannical form of oppression. Yeah, I mean, forget about free speech, forget about anything else. But if you talk to kids under the age of 40, they have a 4 times more likely chance of telling you that they think communism is a better form of government than is what we have here or there in the good old US of A. In spite of the fact that 1,000 times, right? You can look that up, see if I'm playing. The Marxist doctrine has been put into governments around the world 1,000 times. And it's a real mother to find one of them that didn't fail miserably. And the reason is there's no yardstick. You got guys at the top who say you can't have faith. Right. It was Marx that said it's the opiate of the masses. Right. You got to eliminate God, because people that believe in God don't take crap like that. We know we're created in the image of God, and we're not gonna go wait online for 14 days every single day for 4 hours a day to get the handouts that the government's going to give you to live on. while the people at the top drive limousines. People in Russia drove Ladas. And if you've never seen a Lada, it is an amazing automobile to look at. Those bad boys are made out of cardboard.
There's one here.
There is one in Salinas, Ecuador. And honestly, I get really excited every time I see it, because the fact that one of these things is still on the road is absolutely fascinating to me. But literally, they're cardboard. And what I mean by that is they don't use metal in this. They use a corrugated paper that is super hard pressed, and then they put a paint and a lacquer over it. It's cardboard. I mean, it's a rugged cardboard, but it's not made of metal. And that's not really conducive to any place where there's water. This thing goes down the road, and the sides of it are doing this number like it's trying to fly. Let me tell you how great it worked, because just maybe we get lucky and a couple of young people watch this. But when Ronald Reagan was president, he told a joke, right? While the president of Russia, they think they called him that then, was in the United States. And he had told a joke about someone in Russia who calls up to get a plumber. I'm sorry. He calls up and says he's trying to get his Lada automobile. And he says, I've been waiting for this thing for 6 years. And the guy said, yeah, you're going to get it. Keep in mind, this was 1987, right? And he says, when is the car coming? He says, it's going to be 1997. He said, when? He goes, June 5th. He goes, can you tell me if that's going to be in the morning or in the afternoon? And the guy goes, what difference does it make? He said, I got a plumber coming that day. And that was Russia. Do you know what brought that country down? And people don't like doing critical thinking, but you know when it really collapsed is when the first guy came over to the United States, when they could broadcast back into that country what they saw here. Because everybody in Russia heard that there was the incredibly rich and everyone else lived on the street. And that's the propaganda they told their people forever. And then when the first time he comes over to meet Reagan, Reagan wears the worst suit you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it was absolute dog crap. The press ate him alive. He wasn't trying to look cool. If he looked too cool, they might not broadcast it back to Russia. But what ended up happening is he took him to places that didn't make sense. Like he went to a ball game. Why would you take someone to a ball game? So that you could see 70,000 Americans in an afternoon watching a game on a Tuesday, meaning they're not working for the great country. They're drinking beer and eating hot dogs. That can't be 70,000 rich people. And then he took them through a grocery store. And Russians who wait online and they don't know if they're getting oranges or they don't know whether they're getting nylons, because you just got doled out whatever the government happened to get. And the graft and the theft, it's never worked. Tommy, books by Isabel Wilkerson, The Warmth of Others' Sons, and Cast explains the period beautifully and failed U.S. policy. Thank you. We find ourselves in a place where we have decided that identity is more important than humanity. Doesn't matter whether you're as you are a human and with a soul and a conscience and all of that. What color are you? Who did you vote for? I mean, we do this. And it's kind of pathetic. So today, when a guy drives through the front doors of a church and hops out with a weapon and starts lighting it up, they're all rushing to try to figure out who they can blame this on. So what we know right now, right, is that the man's last name is Sanford. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about him. Certainly not by name. We really need to make these people not famous. But the report came out in the New York Post that said this man is a former Marine, and he is a decorated Marine apparently. But what he did was he was somebody that repaired vehicles. It doesn't show that he had any kind of like under fire kind of combat or whatever. That's what they're reporting. However, when you try fact checking that anywhere, I don't know how they got that. Maybe they know somebody that's investigating this, but they're nowhere else anywhere is that been reported. And I don't trust anything anymore. I don't. And more importantly, the reason that I found the last shootings important is not because of so much of who these people were, but what happened after these people did what they did. Hello, Ann from Mass. After the shooting is what really became an issue, right? Everybody can have a lunatic in anything, right? Churches have lunatics in them. The entire world is susceptible to someone with really bad wiring, right? And I think that's what happened with Mangione, and I think that's what happened with the person that shot the two kids who were in church. I think that's what's been happening with a lot of this. Now, the reason that's worth talking about to me is because those individuals are indoctrinated in a lot of ways. And it's kind of obvious because of things that they've left behind. They want this to be a message. They're talking about a political view that they believe is worth killing someone over. And you know what? Even that's going to happen. It's a part of a societal thing, isn't it? So the people that get mad at me and send me emails and go, you right-wing piece of crap, you racist this and all of that garbage. I got a question for you. And I honestly would like to get a super intelligent answer from somebody on this thing who leans in the opposite direction that I do, because this would help me immensely. There's definitely lunatics on both sides of the fringe. And I'm always the first person to admit that. I mean, big time. And you know why? Because I did time with a grip of them. I did. And there is definitely lunatic fringe on the right, big time. However, when somebody who is a lunatic fringe member of the left does something, we usually don't celebrate it. Now, the example that at least 6 of you people, fine people, will send me by the morning is the Paul Pelosi incident. If you've not researched the Paul Pelosi incident, because you didn't get it on the news, right? There are newspapers that talked about it. There's a lot of places you can go to get stuff on it, but you're not going to get it on the news. It's not going to be in your little sound bites. But I'll tell you some things that I think are interesting. The guy that was in his house was a male prostitute, right? Had been convicted of this, and some drug offenses and some other things, or charged with, and some drug offenses and some other things. And he's a hustler. He's a guy that's getting his dope by probably hustling men for cash, having sex with dudes or whatever. If somebody breaks into your house to kidnap you, right, and you answer the door when the cops show up with body cam, holding a cocktail in your hand, it's probably a different situation than it appears. And what was being called out by people and people laughing about it, they were laughing about the story. They weren't laughing about the fact that someone was breaking into this dude's house, but the story that was getting put out was absolutely ridiculous. And people like to compare this to Charlie Kirk getting his head blown off. And the other lovely thing is this, and this is the part I'd like answered. Hey, Bruce, this is something I would really like answered. You can't speak for the people out there. There's no control over that. But your elected officials had an opportunity to either vote to condemn political violence, especially the type that silences your opponents, the things that happened to Charlie Kirk. And if you don't vote in an affirmative for a bill that does not cost any money, a symbolic bill, it's a gesture to say to the world, we are unified in that this doesn't fly, right? This is what separates us. When people say third world, which by the way is offensive in my opinion, even in spite of the fact that all it meant was you weren't Russia or the United States. It's something that popped up during, right? Those were the 2 superpowers that were going to destroy the planet. We heard about it all through high school. And anyway, I could go off on a tear right now. What I'm trying to do is keep a civil tongue. The people on the floor of the House of Representatives, Ilhan Omar, the bartender, you know the bartender, Ocasio-Cortez, bright as a closet. They went on the floor and voted against condemning political violence to silence people. Why would you vote against that? If you say I'm not voting for this, what's the alternative to that? This is a really simple concept. And if you can't get this, you're probably on the wrong channel, because at some point I'm going to offend you. If you do not vote for something, what are you doing? Johnny Scoville, help me.
You support it.
Right. You're supporting the violence. All they asked you to do was put your name on a freaking piece of paper that say it is not okay to shoot someone in the head because you don't agree with what they say. If you vote that way, I really got to question your sanity. Because even the people that pretend to ride somewhere in the middle go, well, I really don't like the guy. Well, do you really like political violence? Because your friggin' party just chose not to vote to condemn it. No money attached, none of that. Here's the reason. Because they make a living frothing up the people who voted for them. They make a living getting the people who voted for them angry. Don't talk about issues, right? And that's why none of them could debate anybody. Because they cannot tell you what the issue is. They can send you clips they got off of Facebook or YouTube, right?
Or TikTok.
And somebody like me, right, making an argument. It'll be a 30-second argument. How about last Thursday or Friday? 3 separate individuals were lynched in separate parts of Mississippi. No one celebrated. No one has mentioned it. Well, that's because the news, and you make a great point. That's not a story that's going to help the narrative that, they push stories. In the 80s, when we were alive, or the 70s or the 60s, we didn't have the ability to have access to a couple of 100,000 stories a day, right? Things from all over the world, things captured on cell phones. If somebody gets something incredible on a cell phone, the first thing they do is try to sell it to somebody. And it ends up on the evening news, and they've got so much to pick from that what you get is not just information bias, which sucks, but it's selection bias. If they just select stories that make people feel like crap, it has an effect long-term on a society. If you don't give people hope of some kind, and it used to be fairly well balanced between the feel-good story of the guy that, saved 4 people as a car went off the road. We live in a world now that celebrates the absolute worst of everything, right? There was a great song came out a couple of years ago. I don't know the name of the artist. I think it was 3 initials. It was the most vile thing. I never listened to it once, but I read the lyrics of it. Singing about her genitalia. Absolutely fascinating to me. I saw her on a show 3 days ago talking about her Christian faith. And this is one of the reasons that people hate Christians. I'm not kidding. Because most of the people you hear scream, "I'm a Christian," don't have the first clue what that means. I'm sorry, it's the truth. And you know what? I'm not sorry. I don't know why I said that. I'm not sorry. The yardstick that makes sense has always come from a deity. And I'm not talking about America. You can go back to any single group of people that wrote a law where that law endured for any period of time. It was always tied to a God that said, you can't do this, this, and this. Because the alternative is anything that someone feels is okay. Because you'll hear people say, well, I don't agree with your morality. Then you always have to go to the stupidest examples that you possibly can and pick people like Ted Bundy. And you go, do you think Ted Bundy felt like what he was doing was wrong? If you allow individuals to do stuff like that, we go, no, obviously we arrest people for that, Tommy. Yeah, you do, right? But it's the concept taken to the absurd. Do you understand? It's the concept of whatever goes for you. So if in your heart, stealing isn't a bad thing, I'll tell you right now, most thieves who go to prison got away with 100,000 times that they stole something before they got caught. It's ridiculous, especially like boosters, guys that go in to get money for dope by stealing. I know guys that did it for 10 years. And over the course of that time, they'll get arrested 5 or 6 times. But the system keeps pumping you out for about the first 8. Then they really lose their sense of humor and they throw a prison sentence at you. It's fascinating to me that we as a country can't have discussions because most of the country is so sure of what they believe in without a shred of ability to explain it that they will not listen to the other side try to explain theirs. In spite of the fact that you should be fascinated that the person across from you can articulate what they believe, because you don't have anybody in your life or echo chamber that can. I would just be fascinated to hear it. And bar none, I'll tell you the truth. I've had a half a dozen people reach out to me and give me an articulate as hell argument against something that I've said. And in every way in every case, we've agreed to disagree and walked away the best of friends. I shouldn't say that. I will correct that. In one case, I think we both found common ground. And in the others, we sort of just agreed to disagree. But knowing what the other side believes, because I'll tell you something, the Black Lives Matter thing, funny thing happened the other day. And as it turns out, there were a lot of FBI agents that made videos back in the day, bowing, getting on both knees and bowing to folks because of Black Lives Matter. And I don't know if you remember those videos, but that was a thing for a long time. White people bowing to black people because of how much dirt we've done to them and that kind of stuff. Those FBI agents were fired recently. And I know because a couple of them made videos, but they got canned for bowing to Black Lives Matter. And that's a racist regime now. There are people screaming about how racist that is. I got news for you. That's a terrorist organization. I'm sorry as hell if you can't see that. The country burned, right? In the name of that operation. And what did we do? Paid them off. I'm sorry, folks. It's stupid. Look at what the leaders did with the cash. I mean, honest to God, if they had done something, you could argue that, well, at least it was a great movement. But they bought stuff, right? They drank champagne. Research it. I'm not playing, man. But how, as a country, do we look at a website for a group we're about to inundate with money and respect and not read the first thing that it says is we want to abolish the nuclear family? Wow, what could be going wrong with the low birth rates? That's just downright crazy. Why aren't people having kids? Well, that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is there's not a lot of testosterone flowing in a lot of the dudes coming up these days. And I'm not talking about all of them. I mean, there are some guys that are absolute men. But we are also literally generating and raising like perpetual man children that kick it in mom's house and play video games 24 hours a day, who take checks from the state, don't go to work, claim disability, claim whatever. And I'm sorry, it's an epidemic. You know, if I'm bumming anybody out, good. It's an epidemic. We got to do something about this. Okay, so back to this shooting in Michigan now that everybody's here. We don't really know what's going to happen, but you know what I'll predict? I guarantee if they're right and this guy is in the Marines, they're going to paint that as an evil thing. He has to be MAGA. If he would be in the Marines, you're going to hear people say some jacked up stuff. Not as many as you would have, because people are starting to get the memo, right? People are being fired for the things they say online. Good for you, people. And I mean the people saying it. I am all for free speech. If you want to go out and say what you want to say, like, I'm glad that guy died, I think you have every right to do that. I really do. I would fight for that right. I would also kick the crap out of you for your boss to have the right to fire you if he doesn't agree with you. Maybe go in and ask your boss before you do that. Hey, how'd you feel about this guy? Yeah, I really wasn't a fan. Go tweet your ass off. But if you're one of those people that isn't smart enough to know who you're working for before you start firing hate out, you're a representation of whoever pays your check. I don't care what you do for a living. They hire you. You're part of what you do is to make their business look good. Hey, that's that girl that works down at the fill in the rest of that. You start going, why would they keep that woman after that vile thing that she said, or that man after that kind of, well, they don't. They're going to fix that quick as hell. And they'll probably put out a tweet that says, we fired her for saying this, this, and this, because it's nasty. Our society's law is kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous. You can't be successful without having a system of beliefs that depend on something about higher than themselves. Now, here's what I will say. I believe wholeheartedly, and I'm not doing this out of any textbook, but I've spent the last 4 years talking to more people who do dope than I promise most of you. I mean, that's really been my wheelhouse, right? I talk to a lot of people who abuse drugs. And there are things that keep coming back again and again and again. And one of those things is that the people who have a belief system, people that do believe that there is a power greater than themselves, their success rate is so much higher than people that aren't. Now, does that prove the existence of a God? No. And I'll tell you something. We're not going to prove an existence of a God. The concept of faith, that which is being attacked all over the planet right now, faith is the belief in that you cannot see, right? It's the belief in something that there's no proof of. Maybe that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And I respect your right to not believe that. But would you be better off under what other yardstick? How about Sharia law? I believe you need, 2 witnesses or 4 witnesses for a rape? 2 witnesses. Got to have 2 other dudes there that said, yeah, I saw that happen. Because that's usually an event that people bring a couple of friends to, right? It's a frightening concept that every single year we're electing more people who are from other countries, like Ilhan Omar. And she married her brother to get in this country. You know what I mean? If the first thing you do when you enter the country is break the law, it's probably not a good idea to keep you. Whether that's sneaking across the border, and I have absolute love for people from other cultures. I came to a different country, but I didn't kick the back door and run across the border. I had to go through a process. And it's frightening to me that there are so many people who think that, well, these people should have every right of an American citizen, regardless. They ran across the border illegally. And I'm not talking about If you go, you don't like Mexicans. Do you have any idea how many other nationalities have been running across our border during the previous administration's debacles, where you could use your cell phone to text the border to tell them you're going to be crashing it? You can pick up your phone and send a text that says, hey, me and about 60 people are coming through. And then they would give you a cell phone and kick you off to different parts of the country, right? But you have to just promise to come back to go to court. What could possibly go wrong? Why is she still in Congress? Well, that's a hell of a question, isn't it? And I'll tell you the answer to it. And people aren't going to like me. The Michigan is wildly Muslim. There are a ton of Muslim people in Michigan. And all you got to do, I mean, if there are enough Muslims in one place, there's always going to be a Muslim in that seat, because they're not going to vote for somebody outside their faith. Well, what's wrong with this this is scary. This is scary. And when you get to a point where you have too many people in your government who hate your government, who hate your country, you're in deep doo-doo. And if you don't think Ilhan Omar hates America, then you haven't spent any amount of time listening to that woman. How's her yardstick? Huh? How's her yardstick? It's terrifying, man. The Muslim population in Minnesota is very high. And I want to tell you something. I couldn't name off the number of Muslim friends that I had in prison who are some of the greatest human beings I've ever met. There is a difference, though, about allowing a huge chunk of your country to be taken over by people whose beliefs are polar opposite of yours. Right? What happens if you get enough people in there? Then we're going to have Sharia courts. And now we're going to have a country inside our country that isn't us. So the people that go, oh, no, religion sucks. Wait till someone else's religion comes to America, and you can tell us how bad Christianity was. Keep persecuting the Christians, and wait until some other religion takes over your country. It's a very different ballgame, folks. And I'll tell you the good news, right? This is going to be a short one tonight, by the way. You know why? I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you, Johnny Scoville. Because this morning when I woke up, I don't remember the number I have because I only count the last 3 digits, but I had 103 people. And about the time I was getting ready to go live, I looked at it with Johnny and I go, holy crap, I picked up 14 subscribers. I haven't had a day of a positive subscriber growth in probably 7 months, 9 months, something like that. In that time, I lost 10,000 subscribers. And when you're a channel of 30 or 31, that's a lot of people. And that's actually off the number. That doesn't count people that were coming in to offset it and all that. I probably lost 15. And the incredible thing is this. For the first time since I started this channel, I don't give a rat's ass if every person leaves. Because I'm just going to keep talking about things that are true. I'm going to keep talking about things that we don't think about. Because we live in a soundbite world. I just want people to research things. You don't have to agree with me. But hopefully I make you pissed off enough that you go try to research it to prove me wrong. If you do, read articles. If there's somebody that you think is a loser, Jim Comey, watch every press conference, every interview. Don't let somebody pick out of that interview what you think is important. Is this a hard concept? I'm not being rude. I promise to God I'm not being rude. And start reading books. I'm not even going to tell you the stat. But you should research how many books the average American reads after leaving high school or college, depending on where they stop their education. It'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind. Books are incredible. Do you know why? Because if someone's going to BS you in a book, you're not going to fall for it. I'm telling you. You start reading a book, you'll get about 14, 15 pages in and go, no, I know exactly where this is going. But if you only get your information in 20-second packets that are being put together by, TikTok, if you're under the age of 30 rather, there's a 60% chance you get your news from TikTok, all of it. Who decides what you look at on TikTok? Help me with that, Johnny Scoville. The Communist Party of China, he says. Did you hear that? Communist Party of China. Yeah, that's who I want telling my kids the news. Anybody else freaked out by this? Huh? I've lost it. That's what it is. I'm crazy. Joey Girl says, honestly, Canada is frightening. I grew up there, married, and joined my husband here in Ohio legally. Canada is so far gone from them allowing immigrants to completely take it over. And you know what? I don't hate anybody from any country. And I'll tell you something. I broke a lot of laws and I got punished for the laws that I broke. I went to prison. To hear people say, well, if a person comes across the border illegally and you put him in prison, he's separated from his family. The hell do you think happens to every single man and woman in the United States that goes to prison? They're separated from their entire family. You know the difference? Most guys don't go to rob their bank carrying a 2-year-old, right? But if the first thing you're going to do in the United States is break the law and carry a 2-year-old with you, not only should you be deported, you should have the crap kicked out of you before you're deported. It's disgusting. You realize that we had to get to a point where we did DNA testing on everybody coming across because they were carrying kids that didn't belong to them. And we wonder why the statistics are somewhere between 100 and 300,000 people a year getting human trafficked into the U.S. Who's to blame for that? Anybody? Who's to blame for that? These right-wing folks that hate minorities, they're to blame for that, right? No, it's the people that said, come on through as fast as you want to come on through. Because you just start smoking through there with stolen kids that you can sell into slavery. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the people coming across the border, if you happen to be a woman, a lot of those women did horrific things, endured horrific things done to them to get to this country. I mean, and I'm not talking about 4 or 5% of them. If 4 or 5% manage to dodge that bullet, it's incredible. The stories are horrific. And that is humane, right? That's humane. That's how you do immigration. I'll show you, right? They'll get you figured out. 50% of Americans do not read once they're out of school and aren't forced to. It's awful. Well, here's the thing. It's only awful if you want to stay dumb, right? For real. And I'll tell you something. I have a unfortunate brain thing, right? I took too many shots to the head. And the first thing, the guy's name was Jesus Fernandez, was my doctor's name. And he was a stud. He was the best doctor I ever saw in the BOP. He cared. No one else did. Dr. Jesus Fernandez was cool. But he said to me, here's the diagnosis. He was walking me through it. And he said, if you decide you want to watch TV, sit down and just watch TV all day, you're going to be brain dead in about a decade. And that scared the crap out of me. He's like, you got to do everything you can to try to keep learning. You got to do everything you can to try to keep doing something new every day. And you know what you get out of that, folks? Here's the cool thing. For all of us here with drug problems, this is the Love Boat after all. Do you know what the number one releaser of dopamine in the brain is? Novelty. Straight up. It's actually what it's invented for. Novelty. When you do something you've never done before, you're going to get more dopamine than any other time. So books were incredible in prison, man. You dive into them with both feet. And if you start getting things that tell you factual stuff and you start learning, well, for a guy that didn't do a hell of a lot of learning, that was dopamine, right? Changing my life was dopamine. Dopamine's a hell of a buzz, and it's not illegal. Best of my knowledge, they're still letting us do it. I read every day. I think I would lose my mind if I didn't. I read almost everything from fiction to history and everything in between. My brain needs stimulation. I do this. If I'm reading nonfiction and I'm on a nonfiction tear about every 15 books, I will read a thick novel. Like back in the day, it was Stephen King. I wouldn't wipe my backside with a Stephen King novel now. He's an ignoramus. And I'll tell you what, I made the man a lot of money. I don't think there's a Stephen King book I didn't read, including all of his short stories. It's hitting the sack. Josh, have a great night's sleep. I'm glad that you were here. Don't let them politicize this BS tomorrow. You're not going to hear me spiking a football on either side of this equation. I sure as hell wasn't doing that about the Charlie Kirk thing. I'm not celebrating that it was the left that did it, but I'm just not surprised. Unfortunately, when all forms of media slant too far to one side, we're screwed. And we're going to be screwed to that side. But that's not what's going to get us. It never is. It's the rebound from that. It's what people do because they're so pissed off at the ridiculousness of wherever the extreme do anything you want in life. How many dads are going to be cool with a 17-year-old showering in their girlfriend's locker room before somebody does something stupid? Huh? You know why I say that with absolute certainty? Because if it was my daughter, I would end up doing something stupid. I'd have been that dude. And I guarantee you Johnny would have been. He was way more of a lunatic when he was younger. He's a mellow guy now, but that probably has a lot to do with where we're at too. This is a really mellow place. I love where I live. Hey, hi, Tommy and Johnny. Love both the 5 months. P. Taylor, I appreciate you, man. From the bottom of my heart. I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, first time I haven't cared about subscribers since starting this thing. And I'm trading. And I think it's a great trade. I have a lot of people coming in every day, and I have a lot of people leaving. And the great thing is, they're not echo chambers. There are people that have been very cool with how they debate and questions they ask and things that. But I promise you, I'm not coming here without. Hey, Ann, good to have you. I'm not backing this up. So around the world currently, the hot spots. Nigeria is probably the worst. If people tell you that you're lying to them, that people are being crucified, tell them to just go do a little research. Anybody? Now, the second most oppressed is Muslims. But the difference between the two of them, and when you start looking through, if you go Google or you go any of these, and you say how many Christians have died, they'll say 4,000 one year, 4,000 another. You start going and looking up non-government organizations that are researching this. One is out of the Vatican. There's a couple of others. But just Nigeria, they estimate about 105,000 have been killed since, I believe they said 2010. But we're gaining speed. Because the more it's okay to trash people because of what they believe in, the closer you get to the atrocities that could never happen again, right? Like Hitler trying to eliminate the Jews. It starts with people who crack jokes, and then the jokes get worse. And then it's okay to trash them. And the amazing thing about Christianity is that the people that really believe it turn the other cheek, right? I'm going to choose to pray for people that say dumb things to me. But I'm calling out BS where I see it for the rest of my time on this planet. And here's the thing. I'll leave you with this and just piss off a lot of people. I'm sorry. But you know why I'm going to do it? Because you guys won't. And I don't mean you. I have a pretty sharp audience. But the vast majority of people that are going to watch this aren't going to research anything. They'll send me some sound bites. They'll send me 10-second clips of something that somebody said, and they will act as if that was pulled out of some, double-blind study, right, on opinion. And it makes it somehow legitimate. What you need to do is actually get to the issue, right? Find something that has actually been proven. Like right now, there are going to be people running with a lot of stuff on this church. Right before I went live, they said 4 people died, and 8 were wounded. But they're still picking through the ashes of that church. So we might not know completely for a while. There are some people that are reporting that there were 3 improvised devices. There are also a lot of reports that he had doused the inside of it with accelerant. He was killed in the parking lot by a couple of cops. Oh no! Sorry, he's gone. It's a tragedy. It is. Every time this happens, but when it happens at a place of worship, what are they telling us? Huh? What are they telling us? You should die for your faith. We said that the other day about Charlie Kirk. We said that just more than anything else, he died for being a Christian, and people said, that's ridiculous. You should do some research and see what's happening. Look up Myanmar. Check that out. Do a little research and see what's happening to Christians all over the planet. And the more it happens, the more acceptable it is. By the way, it's said in the Bible this would happen. If you guys have not read that, you should start reading, because one prediction after another, right? Go and read what the prophet said, and they are just dropping like flies, and there aren't a lot left. There are very few predictions left to come true, and none of them are particularly pleasant. If you're not a believer, I respect that. If you're somebody sitting on the fence, you might want to do a little research into end times prophecy. You'll find it fascinating. I think you will. I am Tommy. This is The Love Boat, and that right there is a cat in a basket. Will you look at that? How cute is that kitty? It is ridiculous. That is not Squirrel Nut Zipper. She is on vacation currently. Wanted to, she's a hardworking cat. You've probably seen a lot of videos of her recently. So she's taking a bit of a vacation. You should probably see her tomorrow or the next day. But Katie's just chilling. All right, folks. I really appreciate you being here. And watch out for my brother tomorrow night. You got to watch him, folks. He's a fairly dangerous man. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Tommy. Love you all. Between now and then, put a little love in your heart and a little research in your brain.